Good evening, Notts fans. Welcome to Meadow Lane. It's been an absolute hive of activity. As you know, this week there's been so much going on, but the most important thing is we have Ian Burchnall and Mo Ross as part of our team. Ian, Mo, massive welcome. Ian, your first training session today. Tell us how it was.
It was good. Really just, there's obviously been a lot of talk and a lot of meeting people and a lot of press bits, and then the best bit for us is to get out on the grass and work with the players. So I think for both of us it was really nice just to set the session up and get the players going and just begin to put a couple of our ideas across and get working with them.
Mo, it's the first time we've actually heard from you, so make this a good opening line. How have you found life at Notts so far?
But I feel really welcomed. I think the staff we have in place already are fantastic. They're very open to sharing their thoughts on where we're at now and where we're going to go. And it just I don't want to sound kind of cliche, but it does kind of have a homely feel to the football club. And obviously I've been to many football clubs, but this feels like a proper setup.
Great to hear. Well, thank you to everybody who's watching and who's submitted a question. I've painstakingly gone through all of them today. Some of them I feel were covered in the press conference yesterday, so I'm trying to stick to sort of new things, new content for you to watch. So feel free to go back, watch that press conference, make sure you get clued up on both the guys, and we'll get stuck into the questions that have been selected. Now, the first name I think is a name that's familiar to you both. It's from Ostersund. Sounds Scandinavian to me.
I think that is Scandinavian, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So, this one's coming for you, Ian, okay?
Okay.
Ian, I'm sure you remember attending the Viking Oslo Christmas party back in 2016 for the world premiere of the Ian Burchnall song, which apparently had the melody of Rule Britannia. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Are you confident in the singer-songwriter abilities of the Notts County fans? And I think the Notts County fans could probably do with an explanation on this.
Yeah, okay. When I was coach at Viking, they had an annual Christmas party. So there was an Oslo branch of the supporter club, and I was at a conference for coaches in Oslo. So I just agreed to go down and join the supporters for a beer and just to say thanks for the support and those kind of things. And they launched their new song, which they've been working on, which was quite impressive, to be honest with you. They had an Ian Burchnall song. I'd love to sing it to you, but it was in Norwegian, so I don't know if I can do it. I did think you were going to ask me to, but no, it was brilliant. They were great supporters there, really, really good, and so they had an Ian Burchnall song to Rule Britannia. I'm excited to see the singer-songwriter ability of the supporters. Absolutely, that'd be interesting.
From my research, it's not the only musical element of your life in Scandinavia, because didn't Graham Potter set some sort of regime where every year at Ostersund the players took part in a musical performance at the end of the season?
We did. It was in our contract, actually. It was in everybody's contract, coaches, players. And it was I think it was a brainchild of the former chairman there, and it was just about trying to take players totally out of a comfort zone and do something that you never thought you'd be able to do. So we ended up doing musical theatre to audiences of 500, and the fans were coming down, and the players, it's a real good team building thing, but at the same time, I don't mind going out and talking in front of people, but singing in front of an audience and doing it with the players was something new for me. But listen, it was in our contract, so couldn't really do too much about it, but good experience.
Have you seen him perform?
No.
Would you like to?
No.
Thank you, that'll do.
Thanks, Mark.
Mo, straight over to you then. This is another one from Sunderland. I still owe you a few bottles of wine because of the Martin Odegaard conversation that you had, apparently.
So he's owned up to it, that's good.
Can you just tell us what the conversation was?
It was when... So I need to set the scene here. We're on a thing called a boat fest. So it's the end. So all the fines of the season go into a kitty.
Where was this?
In Norway. So I was managing a club there that Gerrard was one of the players, and we went to, I think it was Germany or something, and we were sitting there and obviously we were having a couple of beers, and Martin Odegaard come up because he was the big star in Norway at the time.
How old was he then?
I think he was 16, 17.
Right.
And what I said, he said he will be a star at Real Madrid. Now the boy is a star, right? But I just says I don't think he will play at Real Madrid. And he was, I don't know if he was that drunk or he was that confident, but he bet there was 6 bottles of wine.
6 bottles of wine in
6
Norway
bottles of wine.
is expensive,
Yeah.
by the way.
And I said that the boy wouldn't play. I said he's a fantastic footballer, but no, like the question was the Norwegian mentality at the time, right? Of course, he's went on to have a great career, and he's now at Arsenal. So
But not at Real Madrid. Not
hence, you've got to
You've got
stick
to
to
cash
the
in.
rules.
Yeah, cash
and
in.
I'm out, and
So you should be owed a few bottles of wine.
you can send him the address.
Okay,
to
we will.
Meadow Lane, popping down there.
At least he's owned up to it though. He could have hid. He didn't have to get in touch. So fair play to you, Gay, and thank you very much for your question. Okay, on to David Shipston. This one for Ian. Some fans have questioned your lack of experience in this league and the fact you've not played professionally. Now, this is probably a question you've had a few times, I would have thought. What would you say to reassure any fans with those sort of concerns?
Yeah, I haven't managed in this league, so I don't know. But I've managed in really, really good leagues. Norwegian top flight and Swedish top flight, for those that don't know, is extremely high level, really. Going away and playing Malmo, full of teams, full of internationals, and playing in big arenas in front of 30, 35,000. So, we came up against players like Erling Haaland and Martin Odegaard, and so I think the league is good. So I think I don't worry about coming to the National League. I know it's a very, very tough league and it will be a totally different challenge, but I think that I've had good experiences, so that is not a big concern for me, really. It's more about coaching players and improving them. A lot of the players I've worked with have gone to play in Premier League and Bundesliga and things like that, so I think that experience is really what's going to be important, not whether or not I've been in this league before or that league before. I think it's more about just general coaching skill set. And no, I didn't play professionally, but a lot of top coaches now haven't. They work in a different pathway. Mourinho, Saki, Brendan Rodgers, Nagelsmann does okay. So I think it's a understandable question, but for me it's more about the skill set that you have to lead and coach, rather than whether or not I was a good player myself.
Fair enough. On the subject of great managers, you just mentioned some there, Ian. Question for you, Mark, comes from Dave Fells, who he said he just listened to an interview that you gave, and you mentioned you've worked under 5 international managers: Glenn Hoddle, Dick Advocaat, Alex McLeish, Walter Smith, and one that he couldn't hear. Do you know which one? Which was the other
Bertie
one?
Vogts.
Thank you. Which of those 5 was most influential on your career, and why?
Good question.
I would actually take it back and say that none of them are the most influential, but when you have 5 different top level coaches, you can steal something from everyone. But under Dick Advocaat, I was introduced to Jan Wouters, who has ultimately had the biggest, by far, influence on my football ideology and how I think and how I try to put on training sessions. So by association you would then say Dick Advocaat, because I met Jan Wouters. But overall I would say to have 5 international managers, Glenn Hoddle, you listen to Ferdinand, Beckham, they always say that Hoddle's the best. So for me to be of average ability, to be under 5 international managers, I feel really fortunate and grateful that I had that opportunity. And I've taken all that in, and hopefully I could relay some of that onto Notts County players.
Fingers crossed, that'd be fantastic. Another question for Ian, this one from Enfield Pie. We've been trying to play out from the back this season, but many teams counteract us with a high press. Will we have to go long a lot to counteract this?
Sometimes, but I would say it's more important to just be better at playing out then, because normal strategy for a team that plays out is for the other team to press, so then it's better to find the solution. Sometimes the solution is to go over the press, and but it's more with thought, so if we're going to play longer distance, it's a longer distance pass, so that maybe it's into a striker and then you can play off there and have fast attacks. So you need some variation, but I think it's just to when teams press you, I think that can be really good because it opens space behind them and space somewhere else, so then it's just to be better to exploit that space faster.
Okay. The eagle-eyed Ralph Shepherd, who's the former media manager at Notts, good to hear from you, Ralph. I spotted on your Twitter, Mo, that you're excited for the next 4 years. Where do you both see yourselves and the club by then? We'll start with you, Mo. 4 years' time.
I would hate to put any kind of stamp on that as such. But what I will say is we have an environment here thus far that gives us every opportunity to be successful. So I think if you ask every Notts County fan today, first part, League 2. But then when you get to League 2, you've got to recalibrate your expectations. And then you've got, so it's only ever really a kind of year project.
It's an evolving situation.
It's an evolving situation. So for me, knowing Ian and knowing how I operate, and when I say the club and the environment, the analysts, the staff we've got, the facilities, it's all, listen, I'm sure the fans have heard that every manager or assistant comes in, they will say great club, big club, but it's always going to be a big club. But the implementation of what we have here with the stats, the analysis, the coaches, the players, and like the first session today, these players were so humble and so open to change and open to new ideas. It was brilliant. So for me, we can't say it's going to be here or here, because every year we're going to need to recalibrate what is deemed as success. So I would put it that way.
Anything to add on that, Ian?
No, I think that's a great answer, but it just probably that, for us it's really important. Not only we need results and we want results, everybody wants that, but it's like Mo said, it's a bit more about really driving everything around to keep it, to push the levels of what we're doing all around the team and around the club, so that at some point, whether it's this season, next season, we're up one league, we're already prepared, and that there is absolutely no way we're going back down there. You know, we're in a good structure, and that's what we've been working with. So that's why we see it as that kind of longer vision.
Absolutely. Another question for Ian comes from Neil Gribben, and this is a question which fans have been asking nearly every week this season, unfortunately. What's the medical staff's opinion on Karl Roberts' availability? Will he be back anytime soon? And also, are we likely to see Lewis Knight soon?
Well, if I take Cal first,
yep.
I mean, of course we've come in and we're aware of Cal's talent, very, very talented player, and of course based on that we're keen to have him back and fit, but it's really important that when he's back and fit we don't have too many setbacks. So I know the medical staff are working really, really hard to get him fit, and when he's fit to stay fit. So I had a good chat with him today actually, Cal, and he's feeling really hungry to get back. And I don't think he's really, really far away, but still we have to take each day, and hopefully we can see him fairly soon. But like I say, we want to make sure that when he comes back he's exactly right. And Lewis Knight, Lewis come from not playing so much and just needs to build up that level so that he's ready. But is exciting talent, so we've just got to give that time and make sure that again when he comes in it's in the right moment. So yeah.
Mo, Ian just mentioned there that obviously Cal is known to you both, and I'm sure you've done your research on all the players. I wouldn't expect you to name any individuals, but do you and Ian have an idea of who your key players are already yet, would you say?
Listen, I think on day one everybody's hyped up and they're trying to show the best self. What I do, looking at the starting lineup that's been of the last few weeks, and then you come in and you see the players that are on the periphery, but when I say, oh, he's got talent, oh. So I think that there's boys that have been on the periphery that can absolutely find themselves thrown in and playing every week, because we've got fresh eyes on things. But what I do see is a group willing to be a better, full of individuals that are willing to be better, because it's only one training session, but they absorb so much, which gives us hope, because if they're not open to, it doesn't matter how good our ideas are, if they're not open, then it's a dead message. So I always ask for players to be humble enough to say, well, maybe I wasn't doing it right, and actually question, am I doing that right? And if they have that approach, if they're curious, they'll become better footballers, guaranteed.
Is that a concern when you go into a new job, Ian? Like Mo's obviously just talked there about how receptive the lads were in your first training session today, but you never really know until you're in that first training session, what sort of group you've inherited and how receptive they're going to be to intense coaching.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what you might know some players when you go in, you might know none. You know, I've moved abroad and not known a single player that's in the squad, and then you have to learn about them, and you know, invariably for a whole squad it doesn't always work for everybody at what you're doing, but I think you get an impression straight away and where you can add, and like Mo said, I think just immediately, you know, from the first couple of days we've got a good feeling for the group in terms of, you know, that they want to be better, that they really want to succeed. So I think that's just a great start point.
I'm sure the supporters will be absolutely delighted to hear that. Another question for you, Mo. It comes from Kelvin Hallam. Mo, what is your biggest achievement in coaching so far?
Again, it goes back to what you deem an achievement.
What do you deem an achievement?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at honours, I mean, winning leagues in Norway, you know, okay, they were lower level, you can say that's an achievement. But for me as a coach, and I've managed before, but for me as a coach now, my biggest achievement, but I think it's a day-to-day thing, where you see somebody that's struggling to get a certain movement or a certain way of playing, and then it just clicks. I get that on a daily basis, so that's what I like. It's maybe a bit of a boring answer, it's maybe like, aye, okay mate, but listen, winning leagues and winning trophies, that's the main thing. And you know what, being a big club like this is actually quite a big deal for me. And
well, you've moved here, haven't you? You've had to up sticks and change
you know,
your life completely.
But I see this as a big step in the right direction for Maurice Ross and Ian Burchnall. That's a selfish thing. This environment here is going to make me have a best chance of success for this football club, and ultimately, you know, I want to be in the Premiership. Ian wants to be in the Premiership, but that's going to be in 5-10 years time. But it's so I would say that's also part of a successful part or an achievement, and from my point of view.
100%. Ian, what about you? What would you rank as your best achievement?
I think probably the first season in Ostersund for me, as a whole, because when I went in there, they'd had unbelievable success and been in Europa League, and then they just started the next season and struggled a little bit. You know, Graham had left, had gone to Swansea, and we sold a lot of players out of that team that had been in Europa League, and when they were sat in 11th in the league, and there was a real feeling of uncertainty that the bubble had burst and the team was done. And I came in and I think we started with 6 out of 7, six wins and a draw in the first 7. We were up in the top 3. We almost surpassed the points total for the year before under Graham. And I think really to come into that environment was not easy because of the success that they'd had. But then to continue that for that season, I think was really good. And I'd also echo what Mo says. You know, some of the players that I've worked with that I've managed to go on and develop and enhance, and I think that you've played a bit of a part in that development. You know, you see them maybe playing in the Premier League and Bundesliga, and you think, you know, it's nice that maybe I just had a part of that development. I think as a coach, you really like that, to see a player grow that way.
Brilliant. Another one for you, Ian. Andrew Richards, this one. Is automatic promotion an unrealistic goal, or are we genuinely aiming for it?
No, I would say in this moment, I would say it's unrealistic. I would say that because it's completely out of our control. Because if you look at the gap distance to Sutton, we cannot control what Sutton are going to do with the rest of their games. They're a long way ahead. If they go and win all of their games, it doesn't matter. What we can win all of ours, it's going to make no difference. So I think right now, because we don't have that control in our hands, it's very hard to say it's completely realistic. So I would rather focus on the things that we're able to control, which is the next game and the next performance. And if you do that and work on a good method every single day, hopefully the outcome is a positive one at the end. So of course you never know. Football's very unpredictable, but I would say it's much better for us now to focus just on the next game and put in a fantastic performance, and then focus on the next game. And that way we're not disappointed if we're not automatic promotion, but we just focused each time on the process to get a good game each time. I think that's a better way of looking at it.
Great stuff. Mo, Matthew Taylor, So you and Ian have obviously done a lot of research you've watched a lot of our games. What's impressed you the most from the team in the matches that you've reviewed?
Small things. So like if you imagine, so say the setup, they've played on the left, for instance, and they've been dispossessed and they've been counter-attacked. The one that stood out for me was, I think they were 2-0. I'm not sure what the score was, but
we've been 2-0 down in a couple of games recently.
But it was the willingness to get back in and defend, and it wasn't just one or two. It was the whole midfield unit got back in, and that just shows that that's a group that's full of individuals that are working together. I think that's probably something that I did pick out. And you would say a bit of steel to come back down from 2-0. What I did see in the last game, for instance, was the team was 2-0 down, playing 3-5-2. They changed to a different formation. The ability to switch from playing long to shortening the passes, and you look at when you shorten the passes, the performance improves, and you could have won the game in the last minute with a big man. So I see enough in there in terms of football ability to be able to focus on that and control football matches.
When you're thinking about taking the Notts County assistant head coach job, does reviewing that footage and seeing those little things in the team form part of your decision to come or not?
The biggest decision for me coming here, there was two. It was, I believe in Ian 100%, and the environment 100%, because Notts County's always been a big club, but in the past it's maybe not been run as smoothly as it has been just now. And I am super excited with the environment and how they're going to go about recruiting, analysing data in terms of helping us on a day-to-day basis, because it's not just about analysing the next opponent, it's also how we're going to recruit younger players that are maybe going to make us money, bringing down the average age of the squad, all these things. So it's a really, and we can't go into it too much, but it's a really forward-thinking, exciting, but you can arguably say it's a kind of, the details and the data that we're given is top level stuff. It's Premier League data that we're getting. So I think we should be very grateful that we have owners that are providing that for us, really.
And I know, Ian, you say that you're somebody that likes to have that data condensed and delivered to you in a way that you can apply it to upcoming matches or training session perhaps, but just how important is that and how valuable is that to you and Mal?
Listen, the game is like constantly evolving in terms of technology, in terms of resource, in terms of the way, and like it's so important that at each stage you really embrace what's there and what's available to you. So, I'd be mad if we have all this information and that we don't try to use it to facilitate what we're doing. And sometimes you need people that are working with it to break it down and explain it, and that helps with us as well. It just provides like counter arguments and things for us to discuss and challenges us a little bit, because we want an environment where I want to get better. I want to get better every day, and some of the stuff, the new things that are happening, we have to be up with that and utilise that to see if it can make us better. So I'm absolutely for it.
Exciting times ahead, for sure. This is a good question from Matthew Taylor, and a topical one. What do you know about Hornchurch?
Yes, we to be honest, probably a week ago, not a lot, but more today. Sat down with Jimmy and Yao, who are working with the analysing, and then we watched clips of them today, and we watched some of their previous games against. They played Darlington, they played Maidstone, so we were watching those games today, and watching the way in which they were playing, and then they've got some good players in there. They've got some interesting players, but of course it's quite unpredictable to know. They haven't played a game for a little while, so we have no idea on the status of the players, the fitness of the players, the who's available, who's not. So a little bit of an unpredictable game for us, but we're doing as much as we can. Jake Keane's been breaking down the set pieces and really looking into how they're working with set pieces. So I think we know as much as is possible, because their games are not on some of the platforms that you can look at. So we've been on YouTube to try and find their games, and so we've had to be quite resourceful. But I feel like we did our work today, and that we've got a good picture of them.
Mo, you had a brilliant playing career, but I can't imagine you ever experienced such a strange scenario as the Hornchurch players have experienced recently, of having such downtime before what is a massive game for both clubs. What will the mindset of their players be going into this game, do you think?
I think it's like anybody. I mean, if you've not played football for, like when I was a player, when you go on holiday, you enjoy the first week of your holiday, then you start missing football again. So these guys have, they're playing against a good team, Notts County. They're going to be playing on a good stadium. The boys will be like caged animals, and we need to be very aware of that. And this is no weird. We've certainly not approached this as, it's a team from a level below. Not at all. So for us, we're going in here tomorrow, and we've picked a strong starting 11 tomorrow. So it's we need to give them give them their place, but we've got to match. We've got to, as much as me and Ian like all the detail stuff, we've got to be matching on the basics tomorrow, first and foremost. So to answer your question, these boys will be fired up to come here.
What sort of a first game is it, Ian, for you? Is it the one you dream of, potential to take us straight to Wembley, or is it a bit of a nightmare and difficult to research the opposition? Pressure's all on us, I suppose.
No, but you have to come into a club sometime, and I've come in now, and you have like one training session straight into a game. Like, we're learning a lot. We'll learn a lot tomorrow about the players. We'll come away with more answers to make us better for the next game. And then the minute that this game's gone, it's an important game against Aldershot. Then it's an important game against Wrexham. So we're like, it's really unusual, and it's really nice to be straight into a semi-final. But like somebody said, is it like, will it be great for you? And I was like, this ain't about me. This is about the players. This is about the supporters, because chance for Wembley to maybe see them would be amazing. It's about the club, really. We've just come in here. This ain't about us. This is, I think the players have worked really hard to get here. So I'm happy to be here to lead the team out. But I've got confidence with the players that we've got, and I think they're, I want them to do well for them and for everybody else.
There's a couple of other Hornchurch questions which we'll get round to later, but I want to come to now a question from Jacob Ford, which is for you, Mo. Have you ever worked with any of our players?
No.
We were trying to work
out in terms of.
Well, as a
I've
coach,
worked with him today,
but have you played with any? Or have you played against any?
Yeah, did I play against Mickey Doyle or no? I'm not sure. It's run about the time. What age is Doyle? 39. Yeah, I played against him when he was in the Celtic reserves or the Celtic youth team. I'm pretty sure. Good player. Always was a good player. Also technically very, very good. Obviously had a great career. I mean, how many games is that boy played? 880 games or something. Phenomenal career. So yeah, I would probably say it's maybe only him. I don't know if this guy's researched it or not, but
no, there's no answer to it. He was just wondering if you'd.
Yeah, it was probably only Mickey Doyle.
Yeah, okay. Another question for you, Ian. Let's see what we've got. Derek Flowers asks, will you choose a set formation, or will you be chopping and changing to suit the match?
I think if anybody had seen my teams before, we don't tend to set a formation. I'm not like, listen, formations are fluid. Like, if you say I'm playing 4-4-2, it's very rare that it's two straight lines of 4 and 2 there. The game is a fluid game, and it depends on the individuals that you've got. But I think it's a massive benefit for players to understand different systems, because you can change. You saw the benefit, they went from 3-5-2 to 4-2-3-1, and that change really benefited that game in that moment. So I think I like to be able to switch systems, but I think first when we're in, we will bed down in maybe one system where the players understand it, and then from there maybe we'll open up to more.
Great stuff. I like this one from Ian Priestley. You might think it's a daft question, so just tell me straight, Mo, if you want. But as a professional coach, would you prefer to win 1-0 or 4-3?
1-0.
You were a defender though, weren't you?
No, because I think if you've so it's a balance all the time. So 1-0 for me means the structure was correct. 4-3, your structure's wrong.
Right.
So and me and Ian talk about it all the time, that every time you're attacking, your structure behind the ball should be of that you don't get counter-attacked. Now, you could be playing against a team that's equally as good as you, and it's just a good game of football. You know, we all love that as a fan, but me as a coach, I would like a clean sheet, and we've been very structured and controlled, that me and Ian are relaxed. And
I noticed you nodding along, Ian.
Yeah, because I've been in, don't get me wrong, 1-0 at the end of the game is tense, but I've been in 4-3 games, like over in Norway, and by the end of it you feel like you've done a marathon. It's like, so yeah, I think for our sanity, 1-0's a nice one, but I know the fans want a 4-3 every now and again, so every now and again a 4-3 is good for the fans. Yeah, but a 4-3 for the fans. We want a couple of them, but not too many.
We'll try and throw a few.
Too many 4-3s, and then
potentially you won't last the season.
No, I don't. No.
And you've got 3 kids as well, so if that's stressful, then it must be bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. I think that's the answer to that question. Interesting one, and we've had a lot of questions on the academy. You know, it's a pertinent point with supporters of all clubs, I would imagine.
Yeah.
This one comes from Darren Devine, but it is a question that's been asked by several fans. What's your policy on youth and bringing through players from the academy?
Yeah, I mean, you know, my own coaching career started with like the under-9s, under-10s at Leeds United like 18 years ago, and I worked through that system, and I was both working with the youth team at Bradford City for a while, so like I've been in that position where I've tried to develop the players, and even like when I've been in clubs in Norway, especially in Viking in the last year where we had some financial problems, we had to bring the players through, and we gave a lot of players debuts, and I think it was really, you know, it's really good for them actually. A lot of them developed as a result of it. So I like to see the product of young players coming through and developing, and I think it's really important. It's important for the sustainability of the club. So yeah, I mean, we all want to develop our own players. I think everybody would like to see players from Notts County's academy coming through to the first team, but you know, it's they've got to be ready and they've got to be right as well, you know.
I think it's of big importance to the fans, particularly at the minute, Mo, because the under-18s won the league last year, as you're probably aware. It's difficult at the minute because obviously they're training in a separate bubble. With, you know, COVID makes everything difficult, doesn't it? But long term, how will it look, Mo, in terms of us monitoring our own younger players?
Well, obviously I'm massive on the whole youth system. I would imagine that, because me and Ian will like to get eyes on it, so what we need to do is we need to be visible to a point that we're not there every week. But if it's an under-18s game in the area, I would like to go and see it, absolutely, because I always think if you're playing under-18s and you're the best player there, you should be promoted. If you're under-16s, you should be playing in the 18s, so you're constantly stretching them, you're constantly pushing, because players can get too comfortable being the best player at their level. I think you've got to remove them, push them further up the trough. And but for me, I would look forward to getting them back playing so we can get eyes on them, and they would absolutely be a path for that. Absolutely.
Okay, I think a lot of fans will be happy to hear that. Tony Williams with a question for Ian, back to the Hornchurch game. How will you pick your team for Saturday? Sounds like you already have. Wouldn't expect you to name any names, of course, at this stage. Are you going to go strong, which Mo has suggested you will, and take a look at your preferred starting 11 perhaps, or would you look at utilising fringe players to give them minutes and to rest others?
But you know, this is my first game, so I don't have a preferred 11. You know, and I don't think that a coach should ever have a preferred 11. I think the space is for players to be hungry to get in all the time, and you know, I like to train with a bit of unpredictability. I like the players not to know quite where they are, and that they should always be hungry to be a part of the squad. They shouldn't ever think that they're out of it, and I don't like that thought. So everybody has a place and a role to play. So no, I don't have a preferred 11. I think I can tell you that we'll put a strong team out, and that doesn't really mean anything too much, because lots of fans will deem this player strong and that player strong. So I think the team is strong, because I think I could change 4 or 5 players, it'll still be really strong. So yeah, I mean, we want to win the game, and I think I've put a team out capable.
I think in the context of the fixture pile-up, I think what a lot of fans will be
Yeah.
wondering is,
Are we
are you going
resting?
to rest
Are we
players?
rotating?
Have you had a detailed conversation with the medical team?
Yes,
Do you
we
know exactly the number of minutes certain players have played and who needs rest, who
Absolutely.
needs minutes?
That's what we said. I think that was maybe one of our first conversations is, look, where are we at? And you know, we don't want to risk anybody. We've got lots of games to get through. Who will benefit, and you know, but I think if you ask the players, every player is hungry to play as much as they possibly can. So I think that's a good situation, and yeah, that's where we're at.
Looking forward to seeing the team news at 2:00
There you go.
tomorrow. Mo, Paul Smith, he wants to know about you and Ian's partnership. How did you work together in the first place, which is obviously here? And is it a case of good cop, bad cop?
I think the days of good cop, bad cop were over. And even if that was the case, I don't think we're that way inclined. And me and Ian met in Norway when Ian was at Viking Stavanger. Obviously I'd played at the club, I was coaching in the area, and we had a run at trying to work together there, and the club decided they wanted a local foreign coach, a local Norwegian coach with Ian, which Ian's hands were tied on. So we've kept in touch since. When we first met, Ian was humble enough to come and watch the training I was doing at the lower level, and I was obviously invited over to Viking to watch Ian work, and there was I liked what I saw straight away in terms of the detail, the manner at which Ian coaches. I'm a bit more to the point and maybe a bit louder in my style, so I think if you're going to good cop, bad cop, that's about as kind of the contrast is my delivery. My delivery is a bit more there, and Ian's more gentler in his delivery. But yeah, it's the football minds, I would say. That we could sit and speak football for hours and hours, and even in the initial stages. I think the last time it was your wife calling you to get you up the road, wasn't it? That it was the reason you had to go, mate. We would have been there all night when we were in the wee pub in Beverley's, remember?
I remember very well, yeah. It's not cheap for a beer in Norway.
I've heard that, yeah.
Mo had rang us and said, listen, shall we have a pint? Shall we have a pint? We just had our second daughter then. So my wife was home with the kid. I said, listen, I'm just popping to the pub for a pint with Mo and talk football. And obviously we can talk football, and all I'm going to say is it's £10 a pint, and there was a fair amount of money spent by the time I got home, and I had one very angry wife to go back to, who was not happy looking after two kids. So straight away Mo was in the bad books. But I think that just, you know, we straight away we had a common grounding on where we want, on where we see the game, and like, you know, our experiences are very different. Mo, you know, you can't really compare our playing careers because I didn't have one, and Mo had a great career, but I think we still found the common ground with where we want to play, and that's why maybe the way in which we deliver is slightly different, but we still come in with the same point, and I think that works quite well.
You're both young coaches. You found a common ground out in Norway. You mentioned that there are a lot of young coaches in Europe and around the world. Is your style exactly the same as theirs then? You found it easy enough to find a common ground straight away in Norway. So what makes yours unique, would you say?
I think sometimes it's a common ground on how you see the game and how you want it to play, and every coach can see it slightly differently, and there is no right or wrong. You know, there's different ways to work, but we just see our way that we think is the best. But many others do it effectively in other ways. So no, I think young or old, I mean, there's older coaches probably would meet and think exactly like us, and then younger ones that think the opposite. So it's such a subjective game at times, so then, you know, everybody's a little bit different.
But just on that, I mean, you're saying young in age, right? But I've got, this is my 10th year of coaching, because I quit at 30. Ian's had 17 years experience there. So you look at this, 27-year experience. So if you say the average footballer quits at 35, he then does his badges for 3 years, then he starts his coaching journey at 38. So put that amount of experience into a 38-year-old, it takes him to into his 50s before he's got that experience. So it's easy, it's a throwaway comment that people say, young coach, you know, well, doesn't matter your age, it's your knowledge you've got, it's your skill set you've got, that's what's important. So I wouldn't focus too much on that. That number is the age, the number of experienced years coaching, that's the number you should focus on.
But if you want to keep calling us young, that's
well, I was going to say, it was more just a compliment. I'll know never
I'll
to
take
say
that.
it again.
No, please, call me up.
Ian, Darren Foss, this is an interesting question. So this obviously plays on the nuance between what is a head coach and what is a manager.
Mm-hmm.
Will you have the final say on incoming transfers, or will you just use whichever players are brought in for you?
No, it's of course it's not. It doesn't work like that. I mean, it's like we have a lot of knowledge in this building. Believe me, like we've sat today and gone through some of the recruitment processes, and they are advanced and they are really, really detailed. And I think that it's going to be a collaboration between, of course, what myself and Mo, what we think, plus using the resources that we have available to make the best informed decision. And I'm 100% sure the club don't just go and bring in a player that I absolutely wouldn't want. We all will be in agreement about players that are going to be successful for the club, and I think one person that just says, right, this is the way to go, it rarely works. I think you need good and intelligent people to converse over this and put their ideas in, and then you come out with a solution. But I think that is a good way to work and a good model to follow. So, believe me, you can have the title manager and still operate like a head coach. It's kind of semantics, really. So for me, it's like, look, I think we're going to find a really good process for recruitment. I'm absolutely sure about that, and that's because I think we're open to working on that together.
I've had a couple of questions as well about potentially new signings before the end of this season. I know you covered it in the press conference yesterday, but it was asked so many times on this platform. I think it's worth sort of clarifying your position if possible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm keen to say that we've got a big squad and a good squad, and I think we've got players that can deliver performances and results for us. So I'm keen to work with them now. And I don't say we won't sign anyone, because suddenly we could get 2 freak injuries and really think, right, now we've got to go into the market. But as it stands, looking at the players, I think we've got a group of hungry players that want to succeed. So I want to work with them. But while the window's open, anything can happen. So of course we need to be prepared for that. But my first instinct is, no, I want to see what we have and to work with that.
Cool. Paul Robotham with a question for you, Mo. What are your first impressions of the facilities at Notts in comparison to what you were using in Scandinavia?
The facilities in Scandinavia are typically great. The obviously there's a massive middle class there, so there's always funds to erect good stadia, training facilities, AstroTurf, floodlit. So it's what I think we should look at is we're a club that is in the conference that has facilities of a championship club.
You genuinely feel
yes,
that?
I do. We've went up to a training ground today that used to be the Notts Forest training ground, and it's fantastic. The bowling green, the pitch is decent, the stadium's great, and but you know what? You can have all that. See if you've not got the people together, all heading in the same direction, all with one common goal. Then it doesn't matter how pretty your football pitch is or your stadium is. It's the people in the building that make the football club, and I have a good feeling about this place.
Do you share that, Ian?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in small clubs where we have quite humble surroundings, but the people and the structures around were good, and then it was strong. I've been in big clubs like Viking, is a massive club in Scandinavia, and managed there, but the infrastructures and the organisation was chaos at times, and it was really difficult. And what I felt is, that was my first impression when I came here, was good people thinking in the right direction, and the bonus is that everything that we've got around is also good. So I feel like we've got a good structure to work from.
Excellent. Joseph Smith, another one for you, Ian. Can you explain some of the off-field problems that led you to leave Viking and Ostersund? Have we got enough time?
Yeah. How long have we got? listen, Viking's a great club, right? I loved it there. Honestly, the city, Stavanger, fantastic.
What's your average attendance at Viking, would you say?
The stadium's about the same size as this, I'd say. We were averaging maybe 11,000. So it was a good crowd. Better when we were winning. But I was there for 3 years, and the problem was that Viking had built a new stadium and a new training facility, and they put a lot of money in. You know, Roy Hodgson was manager there not so long before me. Uwe Rosler. They put a lot of money into the
infrastructure.
But a lot into the playing squad as well for a long period of time, and they didn't win anything, to be honest. And then, like, by the time I got there, the kind of bubble had burst a little bit in terms of the economy, and the oil industry was dropped. There was a lot of problems behind the scenes. So sadly, it was coming to my obviously it was my last year there, and a lot of staff were laid off, a lot of players had to be sold, we had to bring through the youth, and it was really challenging to manage that club. I was 33. It's a big club with a lot of media attention on it in Norway, and that was a difficult task to bring through young players in that environment and try to get them to succeed. So the majority of the problem there was economy, and thankfully the club has recovered from that and is back in a better position now. But you know, we had to kind of take a step back before we could take a step forward with that. Ostersund, again, first year was really good. First 18 months was really good. Unfortunately, again, the off the field problems. The chairman had some, shall we say, some legal issues surrounding his own finances, and that led to quite a big problem off the field. You know, and when COVID hit, it was a difficult time, and I think, you know, I spoke with my wife, and we'd been away for quite a while, and we were like, you know, we'd had 18 kind of good months, and then it was oh my God, we're in Viking again. It's chaos. So you know, we felt it was the right time to come back, and you know, we're really happy that we did, because here I am. So I don't know, that was probably the shortest answer I've ever given to what are the off-field problems at those clubs.
And I won't be
but listen, I could go on, but I will say, what I will say about them clubs is, like I said, Viking's top club, brilliant supporters, and Ostersund was a really nice club with good people, and the supporters there were phenomenal. So, you know, I really enjoyed my times there, but it was just, you know, unfortunate that sometimes economy took over and got in the way, but you know, you learn a lot through that process.
100%. Quick fire one here from Josh Barnes. Who do you support? Which team?
Rangers.
Thought so. Ian?
Leicester City.
There you go. Two decent seasons. Got to be happy with the way things are going.
Leicester got knocked out the Europe a wee bit earlier than Rangers, but yeah, decent seasons. And Rangers have won something as well, so that's another decent season.
What were your thoughts on Steven Gerrard then as a coach?
If you're asking me, so I'm taking what you said to the letter. Steven's not a coach.
Okay, as a manager.
It's Mick Beale that's the coach. As a manager, I think he's very fortunate in the sense that the board gave him the 2-year presiding over Celtic winning 6 trophies out of 6. They lost the 7th trophy in the start of the new year. So, but it's paid off. So it just shows you if you've got a project and you believe in it, and all the indicators are to the positive, even though you're getting beat, but the indicators are this is moving in the right direction. Because in Rangers, that was a 3-year project, stopped 10 in a row. So from that point of view, he's achieved what he went there to do, and I think he's still cutting his teeth. And I know it sounds strange to cut your teeth at a club as big as Rangers, but I think he'll have another couple of years there. He'll have a crack at Champions League, and then I think he'll end up down south ultimately.
Interesting. Stephen Silver, Ian, are you going to pick a new captain?
No. No. I think Doyley's done a great job so far as a captain. I can see immediately that he's a good leader, and you know, we've had some positive conversations with him, and you know, really good guy. I mean that, really good guy, really hungry to do his best here and get promotion, and you know, you need that level of experience sometimes, and I think he brings a lot around, so no question about that, absolutely not.
What do you like about him, Mo?
I think he's a man. I think he's he's a credit to himself. I think he's had. You don't play over 900 games or whatever he's played if you're not a special breed. Humble, played at a level he's played at, and we had a conversation earlier on today that he's interested that young boys are now getting information and shown patterns of play that are going to help them be better. So that shows. I think he's an incredible character. I've not really had much dealings with him apart from the last 2 days. I just think he's a man. He's just a old school man. That, by the way, good football player as well. And I think he's a fantastic guy.
Great. Andy McNish is asking the most important question of the evening. It comes to you, Mark. Will you be introducing Iron Brew to the team fridge?
No, that's not for athletes. No, again.
Put it in the staff one.
I was going to say, what's going in the manager's fridge then?
We're putting soft drinks in the staff one.
I don't mind an Iron Brew.
No, that's no.
No.
To answer your question, I like it.
Well,
we're not going to be getting Jim O'Brien. He's probably got his fridge stocked at home full of Iron Brew.
Hey, well, I can tell you something, right? When I went to Ostersund, I moved. The first thing I did was I moved into the apartment that Billy Reid used to live in. But I think when this call from Swansea came, he just dropped his gear and went, and he left the fridge full of Iron Brew. So I was drinking Iron Brew for a few weeks on the first. I'd never thought I'd go to Sweden and then be stocked up on Iron Brew, but I was.
Right. Andy McNish again. Who's the most technical player you've ever worked with or had the joy of coaching?
Ravel Morrison. Easy.
And when was that and where was that?
Signed him in Ostersund just into my second season there. Signed him from Lazio. The boy's ability is scary. Honestly, wonderful football player. Technician, very good. I had also, in that just before him, I had Saman Ghoddos, who's at Brentford now, very, very good player, and Mohamed Elyounoussi, who went to Southampton, who's at Celtic now. But we don't talk about Celtic players to Mo.
No, he's a good player.
Yeah, he's a good player, very good. And Moy, who we called him top player in Sarpsborg, I had him. But yeah, Ravel Morrison, was as a technician, scary.
And what would you say about his character? Because obviously that's, if you believe what you read in the papers, that's what's held him back.
I wouldn't believe what you read in the papers. Good kid, nice boy, humble, kind, thoughtful kid, grateful for when you work with him. But he's a kind of a free spirit, and sometimes not everybody fits into the structure. And he, believe me, probably had it tough. I know he had it tough, and so to come through that and still be a professional football player, I think is credit to him. And maybe doesn't get, the boys played in the Premier League and scored good goals and got a move and played in Lazio and played in the Mexican top league for Atlas, and still people kind of consider it a failure because they had such high expectations, but still his career's not been bad, and he's a good kid, came into Ostersund, which is probably the smallest club he's ever played for, but was a humble kid. So I got on well with Raven. Occasionally get a message from him, which is nice.
Nice. Last question, and it's a bit of a standard obvious football question, but I think you can potentially give us a bit of insight into your minds as coaches with your answer. If you could sign either Messi or Ronaldo, who would you choose and why?
Messi.
Why?
Because he's still doing it.
Would you like to expand on it?
He's still churning out numbers that are better than Ronaldo's.
So it's numbers
over, to be honest,
overall play.
To be honest, I'm not really a fan of the whole vanity thing with Ronaldo. To be honest, I think he's a good man. He gives loads to charity and all that, but not my cup of tea. I prefer Messi. If you can imagine it now, Ronaldo is his phenomenal career, and he's a specimen. Messi's that height, and still has got the ability and the nous and the technique to influence the Champions League for the last 20 years. He's a freak in nature. So that'll be my answer.
It's a good answer. Go on.
I'm Messi all day. I'm Messi. Do you know what? For the aesthetics, really, I just love the way he moves and plays on the pitch, and like again, Ronaldo, it's unbelievable. But just on a personal level, to watch Messi And like watching that Barca team before, when there was like Busquets, Iniesta, Xavi, Messi was just like, that is a whole different level. So, and I think Messi was just like the different gear at that point. So yeah, it's all for me. I've always, if you ask me of the two, it's always been Messi.
How do you think the coaches at Barca actually coach Messi? Do they?
I honestly believe that Messi's football understanding is also a part of how he's so good.
Yeah.
You watch him many times, Messi just standing still. People say, look at Messi, he's standing still. He's surveying what's going on. Why should he run about and waste energy? The ball's 50 yards from him.
Did you ever watch that documentary with like the Zidane one? It was just like literally filming Zidane on one game, and the amount of times he's doing the same thing, standing still, surveying, checking his options, and then suddenly he does something, and like you just know the game intelligence of that guy is unreal.
Messi's been getting that from he was 10-year-old at Barcelona, so I believe that he has been taught properly, because that was in the Cruyff, that's all in the building. So for me, I think it's that Barcelona team, especially the one under Pep. It was about how do we get Messi into areas. So all that constructed build-up play was all to get Messi higher up the pitch in areas that he can influence, and when he gets on it, that's then God's gift. That's his ability and the hours of training he's done. That's the gift. But his football intelligence for me would outstrip Ronaldo's football intelligence. What I see in terms of how they perform, Ronaldo's power, athleticism. Yeah, he's got technique as well, but I think Messi's on a different planet.
Good answer. We've finished with the fan questions. Thanks again to everybody who sent them in and to everybody who's tuned in tonight. We're getting close to 7 o'clock, so I'm conscious we've got a big game tomorrow. Ian and Mo need to rest up and prepare. But just to close, and I'll start with you, Mo. Unfortunately, with COVID, there's going to be no fantastic moment tomorrow where you walk out the tunnel in your new roles, and you probably feel quite distant from the fans. Unfortunately, this sort of thing's fantastic, but it's only it's only a token gesture in a way. What people want to see is you two doing your thing in the dugout from the stands. What's it like coming to a new club and not being able to build that immediate connection?
I think this club is so keen. I'm talking as supporters, the club, the people in the building, Chris the cook, and Christine the cleaner. They're so pent up frustration and want to get up to the next level so bad. Now, I know it's a cup game tomorrow, but the club in general, they're desperate just to get on that League 2 ladder. That I think the results will bring that into us anyway. But you know what? There's probably 50 people in the building who've got 50 families who speak, the forums, the radio, everything. So our message will get out there, and hopefully people can see that we're good people also, that will fit into this, and we're going to build something that's going to be sustainable for not just this year, but for the next year and the next year and the next year. And that's something that, yes, of course we want to walk out and be greeted. That's a great thing. Football's nothing but fans. But it's not something we're going to focus on. We're just going to control the controllables, get that team prepared as possible for tomorrow, and hopefully we can get a favourable result.
Ian, you touched on it earlier, and just to finish, you touched on it. Fans could be at Wembley in the FA Trophy final. I'm not trying to pile the pressure on for tomorrow or anything, but
you're going to anyway.
But I'm going. Well, no, because I think it's been such a tough year for fans, for football fans. Even those who only watch on TV, for example, it's been awful to watch on telly because there's no atmosphere or whatever. But for our fans, we've been through the absolute mill in recent years, and to have that glimmer of light of potentially being at Wembley to watch the team is amazing. So what would your message be to supporters ahead of tomorrow's game?
Yeah, I mean, we really want to win the game. I mean, that's a given, really. But I think the added opportunity to have a game at the end of the season with the supporters there is massive for us, because they are missed. It isn't the same. I started the season in Sweden last year without fans, and you did feel the difference. And football isn't the same without them. So it's so important that we get to see them. And obviously the next opportunity is maybe that. So then we want to try and take it and hope that we can do that. And we'll go out and do our best tomorrow to make that happen.
I spent the vast majority of this morning trawling through, as you say, the forums, podcasts, tweets, Facebook messages, and I think it's all universal in everybody's right behind both of you. And I've spent the last couple of days getting to know you both. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been great to hear from you tonight, and I'm sure we'll hear much more. We'll organise a fans forum, for example, and you'll be able to tell people face to face, fingers crossed, when things get back to normal. But for now, all I can do is wish you both the very best tomorrow and beyond. And thank you all at home for sticking with us through these difficult times, and fingers crossed we can get ourselves to Wembley tomorrow. Have a good evening.